Mr. Cap, did you want to address something with the radios?
Go ahead, do your part.
I know Hunter had come. I was unable to be at the public safety meeting, so I know Hunter had come to the public safety meeting to discuss additional radios from our original radio request. Got cut drastically in half. Right now, we are luckily increasing membership, and at the increase in membership, they are becoming very active in membership. Having that radio base is imperative with communications. Our agency was deployed for almost 2 weeks, except for 2 days, to Greene County primarily, and I had 3 radios for 7 personnel. That's unsettling. For a simple fact is, most of the time that team stays together, but a lot of times you have 2 people on a boat, you have spotters. For instance, that was all Swiftwater and a little bit of SAR, but having the increase in radios from a safety standpoint, from communication standpoints of going en route, getting to calls, on scene size ups to EMS to we've actually, our board of directors, and with Hunter being captain over equipment, we've actually not the likely choice, but have actually pulled radios back from those that have become inactive for whatever the reason may be, and explained that was nothing personal. That there was one of those radios that when Jimmy does updates had not been turned on or even had updates. So it's like, well, if you have it and not using it, that needs to be returned. So even with the radios that we've had returned, we're still short. We have, most officers have radios, and we've tried to make sure that our medically trained personnel are doing the EMS assist, the first responder calls, have some form of communication. Just for a quick summary of it, so far year to date, our agency alone has ran 626 calls. This time last year, we had ran 239 calls, with a total of 328 calls altogether by end of last year. So our call volume has doubled, with that being 195 first responder calls, 238 EMS assists, 123 wrecks, and then that's collapse, other search and rescue, storm assessment, swift water, standby, back to the whole hurricane deal, knowing that the highway department is being pulled 100 different directions. Obviously, the primary area that was hit, probably the heaviest, was around Rogersville, lower into Rogersville. I know Church of Rescue Squad was out all day Friday and Friday night until we got deployed. Once, like Danny said, cutting pathways to make sure. There were several times we were having to go out before EMS to even try to get it wide enough for there. One person out of 6 people, I had 3 crews out, had a personal radio. So that request for the 20 additional radios that Hunter had come back to during the public safety committee would be a drastic benefit for our agency from a safety aspect to response, to continue to be able to. It's very hard for me to look at somebody and go, hey, when we have a call, I need you to run this call, and they have no idea what they're going to. They can't hear what's going on. They have no form of communication other than a cell phone. And I don't know if anybody's listened to the radio lately, but I don't think Lynn and his dispatchers, I don't expect my personnel to be calling the non-emergency number. I'm en route, I'm on scene, hey, I need this, hey, what's going on, hey, I'm clear. He's doing well enough with his personnel answering the radio, let alone having to answer a non-emergency number. by somebody calling on the phone. So that's taken away from other things. So
Was it 20 radios?
is that what?
Yes, sir, 20 portables. And I know the question was asked last week about if you have multiple members on different agencies. That I provided a list to Director Miller. All of those 20 people do not have a radio or would not be eligible from another agency to receive a radio. Either they're not in an agency or they're not been there long enough or whatever reason. Those 20 people wouldn't get it from anywhere else but us.
And some of those that we got back, they are eligible or have received a radio from another agency.
Yes. We've done our due diligence to try to mitigate the cost to the county and still provide what I feel we need to for our members to be able to operate safely, to be able to communicate effectively.
So how many members you got?
I don't have an exact number. We've got about 60 to 70 right now on roster.
That is active and associate, and actually our associate members have increased on the aspect of actual responding to calls. So a lot of these are people who live in the area, work at paid fire departments, Bristol, Kingsport, elsewhere, that, hey, they don't necessarily have time to dedicate as an active member, but they have qualifications, trainings and such that when they are available here, they're running calls.
On average, how many people go out on call?
Depends on the time of the day itself. I mean, I would say probably from 8 to 5 most days you would have 2 to 4, just because people working. Weekends and nights, we ran a wreck on 11W at South Central last night, and I had 6 members there. So.
And how many radios you got now? I'm sorry, I wouldn't have supposed.
No, you're fine.
Right now we have 20 radios, and the big thing with the calls too is the type of call that we get. Obviously, if we're running like a first response call or an EMS assist call, we don't need a bunch of people going to. A lot of those members will stay back at the station, or they'll stay available for another call if it comes out. When you get into like your technical rescues, your search and rescue, swift water, things like that, you're talking about 30 to 40 people to be able to make an operation safely and effectively work.
So I guess my question there was, on average, how many of those calls do you have?
I would say out of the 626 calls, probably at least a third of that 626 would have had a large presence. That's being search and rescue, storm assessment, swift water standbys, collapse, and fire standbys. Also, the EMS and assist and the first responder calls, unless there's somebody down there riding with first responders and medically trained, you're gonna have 1 or 2 people. EMS assists, we can average 1 to 4. All those would be just helping get patients out, lift assistance, driver. There's a long list of things that we could utilize for the EMS assist. So, and just for kind of a realm, from a budgeting, because our board of directors also looked at the potential of purchasing radios. Already here today, as the end of September for our expenditures, our calendar is January and December. Our agency has paid out $121,539.54, and that's on a $62,000 budget for the county. The rest of that is fundraising and donations.
71,000. We got the 10,000.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, we didn't have it for this calendar year, but yes.
Director Miller, do you have an extra copy to give Commissioner Barker?
I could send it to you digital.
Because you're asking some legitimate questions. It was given to us last week, and I don't plan on supporting it in its present form. One fire department asking for 54 handheld radios. Another asking for 13. I wouldn't support it with my fire department. I just feel like 54 radios is too many to be asking for.
I can't disagree with you on that.
On average, how many did we do per fire department?
So
I realize some of them are smaller than others.
we did not come out of public safety with a solution on that. The recommendation was to allow the budget to set a cap. Is my understanding, is that correct, guys?
I believe that's what we talked about.
I know when the initial radios come out, that was, from my understanding, the reason why ours got cut in half from our original request was that there in essence was a cap, placed on those outside of the sheriff's department EMS, was the rescue squads had caps placed on theirs.
And Ms. Walker, so the radios, so from what I wrote down, 24 base were requested, 82 mobile, 323.1. Jamie, you got that in front of you.
Correct.
We're looking at roughly, $500,000 in radio requests as it stands. And then, like Jamie said, we decided to leave it up to this committee to have a cap on how many we'd have to purchase.
That's without EMA 911 or the mountaintop infrastructure.
It's 460 to 80,000 depending on which route we go.
You want me to go into the spreadsheet since we calculated it here?
Yeah.
You want to pass it over? I've not had time to work on this project at all. We were in the process of compiling emails from the fire departments when Halloween happened, so Tori's had to do the best she could do with compiling this info. The top is the original request that came in from the departments, including 20 added for Churchill Rescue Squad. This is an estimate. This estimate's high. Because we've not sent this out to bid yet. Like those base stations, there's a lot plays in, like length of coax, stuff like that. It's hard to calculate. As it was presented as $735,500. Danny asked me to calculate this at 25 devices for each department. That actually increases the total to $738,100. If we count the ones that asked for more than 25 devices, and the ones that didn't ask for 25 devices, we'll give them what they asked for, puts the figure at $671,800. And as you see there, EMA 911 mountaintop infrastructure, that's what it takes to make that all work on our side. That's the part that I can justify the number of devices the departments want to justify on their own.
Have we ever figured out how many people are actually in each one of these fire departments and how many are working? And, I know I've got a couple of friends, they work for Lakeview, they work for Rogersville, they work for, so are we duplicating radios by doing this? I guess I'm trying to, because I know a lot of volunteer fire departments several of them work in several different fire departments. So have we ever established how many fire departments are actually tied to a fire department? Or are we giving radios to somebody who works in 3 fire departments?
We've not had time to cross-reference that in my department.
Well, how hard would it be to get each one of the fire departments to give a list of their membership?
There's a name with such, well, I'll take that back. And once you print that, you'll see there's either a name or a position on a truck, depending on how the department turned that into me on this spreadsheet, but I've not cross-referenced it. What we also get into is if that's a sheriff's deputy and that how that works with carrying that device at multiple places as well. Basically, it was insurance. So far, we've retained ownership of all the devices in the field. I recommend doing that with these as well, because at some point when I will be, if tackle continues along, at least we'll have some capital to sell to offset some of that cost over the next 10 years.
I just feel like it's hard to get a handle on what you need if you don't know who you're supplying for.
Yeah, that'll be for each of those departments to justify.
So, Mr. Cap, you specifically, and we're kind of looking at the big picture right now, but specifically for you, you're asking for 20 portables, and you feel like that is what you need to make your department function appropriately.
Function as a whole at 100% right now.
Okay. So, as you described, with the amount of members that you have, you said you had 60 to 70 members, does that put a radio in everybody's hand at that point?
No, it is not.
But it does make you 100% efficient.
Correct.
I guess that pretty much puts a radio in the most active members' hands.
Correct. Because and I will say that there was a couple that we asked for back to give to other people that were fairly well neck and neck, that rightfully so, they also stated that their response would decline due to not having that piece of equipment. And I can't blame them. I can't blame them. That piece of radio, for anybody that's in emergency services, that is your lifeline. That is your lifeline.
And have we given you some before, and you're asking for any additional?
Correct. I don't remember, and I would have to go back and try to find. I don't remember the original request, but I do believe that original request was at 48 for handhelds. Ours got dropped to 20. We had asked for our base station. We did get our base station, and then there was for the command trailer that we have to help deploy if need be on the upper end for comms, command, and such. There was originally a request for 4 radios for it to try to phase out some of the older Vertex radios that we had in there, and we received one for the trailer. So, like I said, there was a significant cut on that aspect, and I'm more than willing to send this back to you guys on kind of Nancy's request. There was who do we have in multiple departments, and how does that work? Because I know that was a question that was brought up on the initial one. Was I'm a member of Carter's Valley. I'm also a member at Churchill Rescue Squad. If I have that radio at Churchill Rescue Squad and I go run a fire call and it gets wet and gets damaged because I'm fighting interior, it drops, it gets melted, is the county going to cover that, or is the rescue squad not having to cover it because I didn't use it for rescue squad functions? So I know that was brought up at one point in time. Was, do you take a rescue squad radio that the worst thing to have to do is be on a water call, get wet, and expose it to fire standards, or somebody from the fire department bring theirs over and something happened to the rescue squad? How is that being covered? Yes, it is at this point a county asset and a capital, but I'm presuming that as Jenny issues those to my agency, those are to be used for Churchill Rescue Squad. They're not to be used for multiple agencies where other things could happen to them. No different than bunker gear. When it comes down to that, is if you're a member of any 2 agencies and I'm taking my bunker gear and using it here, I don't think that department would very well like that if they're not on that call. I manage bunker gear that they've provided with me. So.
Yeah.
But we are more than willing to take whatever additional assistance that can be provided. And like I said,
I don't want to jeopardize you all at all, but it just seems like we got a lot of overlap, and we got a lot of,
You don't have to be here, but you might want to be here.
Unknown things that I think should be things that we know. I mean, you ought to know how many people are active firefighters.
Agreed.
And you ought to know which one of those are going to be the ones, if you got, like I said, if you got radios out, you need to call them in.
Correct.
And they're all, have serial numbers on them, so there's no reason you can't do that. Is
Correct.
And I just, every fire department should know who their active fire people are. I mean, I can look down this list right now and tell you some that's not active, and I don't know jack squat about fire departments.
Something else that's brought up in public safety, I wanted to throw this out there because Tony's still in the room. About radios that come up with public safety. If we continue to expand this system, somebody has to manage it. We're always still probably half my time managing this system of 500
We
devices.
just got you a new report.
Not yet. But when we take this to nearly 1,000 devices, that's like 1,000 computers out there. There's always something going on with them. So at the point when we get the budget, the only way this is typically managed in other counties is either someone in the EMA takes that, or they split a position between EMA and the sheriff's office at 50-50. That's the way Blunt County handles it. As we continue to progress through tackling, that's not going to go away. That's just going to continue to amplify. So it's just like 1,000 more computers in the field. There's always
Well, once you get a database put together, you ought to be able to maintain the database.
The database, great. But there's always programming going on in the background that nobody knows about. There's always upgrades going out, that kind of thing over there.
And I agree with that, except, you know, once you get a database of who the fire departments are, how many they got, if they change, then that would be up to them to get the database back to you.
Correct.
And if there's somebody, the radios, then they need to get those back in. And Tony will be glad to go pick them up, right, Tony?
And we have that all on our site for the devices in the field now. Corey at the sheriff's office, where most of those devices is phenomenal, keeping that up to date. I know Tony sends all those emails, stuff coming through. But that's all I think.
Okay, so the
Don't use the drone to go get the radio.
Okay, so the question becomes, does this committee want to take action on capping this now? It sounds like there's a whole lot of questions that we have yet to answer. And I don't know that we need to move forward with a hard cap today, just because it sounds like we need some more information. So what's the pleasure of the committee in terms of moving forward to cap the amount of money we're willing to spend? And furthermore, how much money do we have to spend?
I don't think we.
Good question.
Because we don't know what.
You've got $345,830 that have not yet been obligated, but that being said, you do have a few projects that have came in under budget, but there's also additional complications with that, is do we extend those existing projects that came in under budget, or do we let that money fall back and reallocate it to a radio project? You also still have unspent ARPA interest to the tune of roughly $350,000, which continues to accumulate each month, although the interest rates are dropping.
How much was the ARPA money?
$345,832.
Plus $350 in interest.
Plus anything that comes back on an under budgeted project.
And don't we only have till December to allocate this money?
So where we opted for the revenue loss, it alleviates us from that deadline.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
That's the brand new discovery.
Okay.
So that gives us till 26 technically to spend it, is that right?
Where we use revenue loss, we're alleviated from having to worry about those names.
Oh, so either one of them, you don't have to worry about either one.
Yes,
I can tell you this on a radio project, if we want to do a radio project, we better do it quick, because some of these take multi-years to get that many devices in, depending on supply chain.
Yeah, that was no way an indication that I want us to drag our feet, but.
I know, but we have to have product in hand to issue money out, so that's, we don't want to have, what we don't want to have is hundreds of thousands of dollars of products coming and miss a deadline. The initial project probably at 2 years total. I don't think that there's quite a basic project.
Okay, so the general consensus, it feels like you guys want to hold off and collect some more information.
I'm not
So
sure
it's-
motion.
Okay, so
And I will say real quick, just looking on my roster, which I don't have 3 people on there, so or 2 people on there, so it's 59 on my phone. But I have 59 members. I have 15 that are in the fire department or another agency. Of those 15, 12 have issued radios from Churchill that I know they don't have a radio from any place else. The other 3 have radios from those other departments and do not have a radio from Churchill.
I think that's the information we're going to need on a hard copy later from us.
Yes.
All the fire
From
departments. I mean, I'm
fire
not being
departments and all,
hardcore.
because
I wholeheartedly agree. I think they should be across the board where there's muddy water a little bit. And I mean, who would like for me to send that to? Because I mean, I can have that by Monday probably.
We got a great one later.
Instead of 10.
all right.
Tori,
Thank you, guys.
Tori, do spreadsheets, huh?